ever work with people who are kind of not convinced of that yet? Or do most people seek you out who are like, into all of it?
I mean, I don't think I tend to attract people who aren't. Like, if you even look at me on stories, you see behind me, like, I have like witchy stuff around me. I have crystals here and oracle
Mhm.
decks. Like, I think the jig is up. Like, if
Yeah.
you, but I never impose it on my clients, and I only use these tools if it's natural. But I use like, that was like a learning curve. So I have like oracle and tarot decks that I read, but I used to always start my sessions like that. And then I realized they resonated with certain people more than others. And so now I only offer it as an invitation, and I only pull it out if I feel like it's something useful. I also like will read the client's energy a lot. So I like to kind of suss out how they feel about spirituality. Are they open to that? Because there's been times in client sessions where I've literally like felt like I've channeled the presence of someone else in their life. And I had a client who I knew was open to that, and I did invite, I told her that, and she felt it as well, and she felt so validated and safe in that space. So I think it's beautiful when it is you're both like in that same openness to it. But I don't think it necessarily is a requirement to be a deeply spiritual person to still do self improvement work, to anything like that. Generally, now my clients are spiritual because my sessions are called Discover Your Soul's Purpose. Someone who's deeply attuned to the soul, what am I meant to do? Are more open, I think, to spirituality, at least in the sense that there is something bigger. There is the universe looking out for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. What would you say to anybody listening who's like, I'd be interested in, maybe getting into that, or I'd be interested in learning more about it? How would you kind of explain it to somebody who is like, I don't even know what you mean by the universe?
The universe, I just describe as the unwavering presence of love and something bigger. And I think the I use the universe interchangeably with God, spirit, source. So just ultimately the sense that there is something greater
Right. Yeah. And it's
than
kind of
like this isn't all completely random.
right. It's there for you. It's there to help you
Yeah.
get to your soul's purpose, for, lack
Yeah.
of a better phrase.
But
But
also, like, the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that it's also very indifferent, right? And it like picks up on your energy. So if you're not like, if you're like, well, I don't really believe in that, like, it's not that it's not going to be there for you, but it's not going to, you're not going to feel as connected if you're putting out the vibration of no, 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 just like me, right? Where I was having flickers of this sense, but I would shut them out. But like reflecting now, I think about the questions I used to ask as a child that I'm like, okay, she was curious, like she felt something bigger, that it's just like, yeah.
yeah, I was actually rewriting kind of an intro to this podcast, and I wrote that we want to make the little you inside proud. And you mentioned, little Lori. So when you do kind of honor that person, what are you telling yourself? Like, are you telling yourself, don't say these negative things about yourself because she's still in there? Are you saying, believe in yourself because things can, like, how do you use your little, quote unquote, little self to guide you?
I think it's like twofold. And one is like using the inspiration she provides, but also like giving her what she needs. So it's like honoring both sides of that, like the give and take. So, like, I really love the fact that like my inner child is what makes me so creative and imaginative and playful. And so when I'm in a time where I want that to come out, like say I'm having a day off, but I'm stuck in my head thinking about work or thinking about like self judgments, beating my this actually happened perfect. This happened on Sunday. I had a beautiful day off. My boyfriend and I hadn't had a day off in a while, and we were going to go to the beach. We were going to enjoy ourselves, but I was constantly stuck in this self-judgment of like how I handled an email. Like it was so silly. And my higher self is like, come on, like relax, relax. But the best way for me to actually get out of my head is when I enter the energy of like my inner child, which is like play and fun. And she doesn't think about these types of things, right? And so I go to the beach and just like have fun and channel like, what does she want to do? Does she want to go splash in the water a little bit? Great. Like things like that, like honoring what she desires in order for her to come out and support me in being more playful, more creative, more present in the moment. But then you also have to give her what she needs. So for me, another time I'm really connected with my inner child is when I'm feeling really caught in like negative self talk, negative thoughts, beating myself up, just feeling kind of low. And I'll give myself a hug and I'll talk to myself as though I am her and or like she's almost within me, excuse me. And I'll say, you're good. It's all good. You didn't do anything wrong. You're wonderfully weird. Like, because I always tell my inner child, you're wonderfully weird, because she felt so like out of place and so strange. And so I always tell her, I got you. Like, it's you and me.
Yeah. Yeah, because that person is still there. And I think a lot of people forget that and don't really think about it that way at all. But when I think back to that person, I'm like, I do want to make her proud. I want to show her that it's okay to do XYZ. Like I remember when I was younger, I would be so self-conscious about things. I would feel like I would be made fun of. I did feel the same type of way. And thinking back to that person now, I'm like, she just would be in shock of the things that I did and things that I am doing right now. I feel like I cared so much about what people thought, even at a very young age. So that really is one thing that I like talking about too. So when you're working with your clients, do you find that a lot of them have that concern? Like, what are people going to think? What are people going to judge me for? Are they going to laugh at me? Like, what do you tell
Oh,
your
yeah.
clients when they say that?
Yes. That's a big one. Um, I don't like I hesitate to say like what I would tell them because I think it's so different. And I think first I would try and work with them to understand what was actually behind that. And it's going to be different for everyone. It could be a sense of like I often ask my client, like this came up recently in a client session. And it's like, where did you learn that? Is like one we talk about a lot. Like, where did you learn that it wasn't safe to be yourself? And usually there's a time people can pinpoint to that maybe they were embarrassed at school or they were trying to express their opinion to someone and it got really ridiculed or something like that. Usually there's something it's usually something that we pull and then we kind of get investigative. But if I was to just give someone like a pep talk and so like of when you're feeling that way, so one thing I always offer to them is like a biggest thing I do with my clients is like perspective. I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but I'm a projector, so I'm meant to offer insight and perspectives that maybe they haven't considered, and sometimes that doesn't make me like super popular.
Okay.
And I do it with so much love, right? And they at the time they might be like, "Oh, you're right," right? I
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it makes me unpopular, but I have to play the devil's advocate sometimes. And so sometimes we'll play the story of like, but what if the opposite was true? And this is really hard for people to do, and which is why I'm saying maybe it doesn't make me popular. I think I'm being hard on myself. But what if the opposite were true? What if you're right now telling yourself, "Oh, I'm so silly to try and start a Etsy shop. Like, who's people are going to think I'm so silly. I have all these family and friends following me. Oh, it's so embarrassing. I have to do reels. It's going to be so cringe." You telling yourself this story. Flip it over. What if the opposite is true? And what if there's someone in that audience who's watching who's like, "Whoa, good on her. She can do that, so can I." And they go pursue the thing that they've always wanted to do because you've just sealed and added more of a blanket of permission to them that this is possible. And maybe you are someone that they really admire. that they've never told you they feel that way, but you really have an influence on them. Another flip side is, okay, maybe they do get annoyed. Maybe they do think, oh, this is cringe that she's posting all the time. Will you still be okay? Yeah, you'll still be okay. And if they're really annoyed and they're really pissed off by how much you're selling, sorry, but I'm a business. You can unfollow me.
I resonate with all of this so much. It's so funny. Even down to the Etsy store. I think a lot of it just does feel like putting yourself out there, even people that you love, you're like kind of embarrassed in front of. And it's like, you're right. I do like switching it. Like, what if it's kind of that sentiment, like, what if it all does work out? One of the reasons I really did take the leap to doing this podcast is I'm like, you know what? It's who cares? Like, who cares if people think that I'm cringy? Who cares if people think whatever? Like, because it's my life, first of all. And if I feel this pull to do something, I'm not going to ignore it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to go to the end of my life and be like, why? Who cares? Like, what does it matter what I did back then? Like, it's just crazy to me how much, and it's like a daily thing, reminding myself of all this and how we're going to all get old one day, and none of it is going to matter what people thought back then. It's going to matter, like, how did you feel? How do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel like you did all the things you wanted to do?
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that. And I actually have like a content creator coach. And one thing she says is being cringy is like a side of not even a side effect, like a precursor to your success. Like you're always going to have that feeling. And for anybody who doesn't really know what we mean by cringy, it's kind of like when you just feel like people are laughing at you. You feel like it's kind of like corny or embarrassing. But really, if you're living your truth, if you're living to do the passion that you have, why should somebody else's thought or just what you think they're thinking? Like a lot of the time, you
Exactly.
just are making these things up. Why would that have any impact on you? And I think a lot of people, maybe if they do laugh or make fun of you or send your videos around, like only people who don't put themselves out there do that. Because I personally think everybody has something that they want to do that they're not doing because something is holding them back. And a lot of the time it's somebody else and or the thoughts of other people. So I just love that. I resonate with all of that so much. What do you think is like one of your favorite client success stories? Like, is there something that sticks out that you're like, I got this person to finally pursue this, or I got this person to get out of like a really deep hole? Like, does anything come to mind?
Yeah, actually, because my coaching supervisor had me do this exercise recently. And this was when we were revising kind of the messaging of my one-on-one program, which ever since I've done, I felt so much more aligned, which was what I was kind of talking about. And she's like, I want you to reflect on every single person you've ever coached and what that work brought to their life. And so I started to look and see like the commonalities. And the biggest thing is like seeing my clients who had like a deep fear of being seen, like then going on and like I've had clients who like this has come out in like fear of even creating reels or creating content. Now I see them doing them all the time. Like those are just like little side effects of this work. But really just like when I have like a long-term client and I see them like really start to make these shifts that it's not me, by the way. I'd like to make that clear. Like I would never take credit for any of my clients' successes. Like they're the ones who show up at the sessions. They're the ones who do the work in between the sessions. Like I'm simply here to hold that space for them. But like clients who have gone from like being overly apologetic like about their emotions, about their feelings, about their thoughts, about their opinions, then be able to sit with me in a session and hold their self to not be overly apologetic, to be true to themselves, to be um able to articulate their emotions and needs. Like that is huge to me because that's like life changing, you know? Those are the things that really stick with me are the people who like are able to overcome like patterns of deep self-judgment to live a more peaceful life that like is ultimately all I could ever ask for is like deep inner peace. And I think that is my favorite